And I
and,
suppose
and lose
go
their
on.
tradition, because
Yeah.
really, when you think of Western foreign policy, what it seems to be doing is that that they're going to go around bombing Muslim countries, and these Muslim migrants will come, at their own expense to the West to join the labor force of the West, and this is a sort of terrific business model. You bomb these countries, and these people, instead of going to Africa, they come to your country and form the cheap labor. So, and I guess the idea that it's that when Muslims come, they will eventually lose their Islamic identity, and be global homogenized with the rest of them,
Interesting. Yeah, that's the
if they don't hold on to their religion.
yep. And so to explain this sort of um how are we saying on how am I saying on one side they're really stupid, Muslims are really stupid, and on the other side I'm saying they're geniuses, is what I think I briefly mentioned in the beginning, is they've got this, I would describe as a sort of a leg up, a step up, whatever you want to call it, a foundation where they've got some really good ideas through Islam, and it's stopping them from self-destructing. This is how relationships work. These are the rules. These are the red lines. You know, when you don't have that, the atheist position is you have to figure out all of life by yourself. That's an
Yeah, it's like
impossible.
expecting every generation to discover electricity or something.
Yeah.
And start again, which is silly. I mean, the whole point of religion is that we've worked out all the things that we've managed to work out, and we store it, and we call it traditions, and telling us that we do this, we always do this, but we never do that, and that gives us our group identity, and at least we know. Well, it's like being given a team, like in schools, you'll get divided into houses for the purposes of debating societies and sports teams, and to give you a way of friendly competition, I guess. And I think this is really what religious groups are meant to be. So okay, we can't help being born wherever we're born, so we are a national of whatever country we were born in, but we should have a choice of religion, and that's the only thing that we can use to show that we have moral autonomy, or we
Hmm.
can just carry on with the religion of our parents or ancestors.
Yeah, and I don't think, how do I put this? I don't think it's a bad idea to copy the ideas of your parents if you thought about it a bit. And I like in at first when you said the word tradition, I don't like it because it feels like blind faith. But if you look at your tradition, which are basically you could describe as ideas that have stood the test of time, you
Mhm.
could go look back and go, "Oh, those worked."
Well, I mean, the most
A
important
yeah.
tradition for human beings is marriage.
Mm,
That's the most important one, because that's what all the five world religions do. You think, well, the least your religion can do for you is to support and maintain the practice of marriage. But Christianity is the weakest link. So we kind of are working out what the problem with the West is. They don't
mm.
like marriage. They don't see any point in supporting it as a
Well,
practice.
they're nihilists, aren't they? So there's no point of anything
Well, I
because
suppose
that's
if you're an atheist, you think, well, I'd be just so stupid if I refuse all these opportunities to have sex with people not
mm,
my spouse. I mean, that is what really they cannot bear,
yeah.
because they see sexual liberation as their Western identity. It's like, well, we're Western, we can have sex with whoever we like, and that is what they want, or it seems to be.
Mm. So I'm going to try to focus on the stupidity of and genius of Muslims, even though the case of atheists is also very interesting.
Well,
So go
yes.
on, go on.
I was just going to say, maybe we can focus on the smartest Muslim and the smartest, non-Muslim. And I was wondering if you had
Yeah,
any ideas
Mr.
about that.
Anjem and blah blah. Uh, we've got like 4 minutes. It's not going to happen, but I've got an idea of what I want to. So when I do a show, let's call it a class even, because it sounds more like it's going to be more useful. I hope it is. Is that I've got like these like, what is it that we want? Let's outline some of the issues, how the Muslims are stupid and how they're geniuses. Now let's talk about the cause, and then I want to get to a solution. So here's what I think about what is the cause that is making Muslims stupid. So there's a guy, I keep forgetting, Edward Hubburton?
Ed Dutton.
Ed Hutton?
Dutton. Edward Dutton, yes.
Dutton. So he I mean, it's quite evident that Muslims are intellectually stupid, generally, at the moment. I think they're getting better. There's a good reason why they're going up. And I'll briefly say it's because they come from more wholesome, not broken families. And if you're not depressed, you're in a better position to actually do some studying and do something with your life. So they're going up in that sense. But Edward Dutton, whatever his name is, I keep forgetting, he thought, okay, well, given Muslims are stupid, it must be their religion that's doing it to them. But he had all sorts of theories that he was desperately trying to put. Like, for example, he said fasting makes you stupid, but actually it's the opposite. If you study the benefits of fasting, and fasting has become like a very popular thing amongst health gurus, it actually helps the neural network in your brain. So it's the opposite. So he couldn't quite work out what the problem was. And I would put it like this. It's that when you don't really study your religion, and you have it like an ideology, like you just parrot fashion, repeat it. You're not thinking. You let the religion, or actually not even the religion, because Muslims do a lot of bad things in the name of religion because they don't read the Quran, but they follow their imams, who are political people who just want power. A lot of them. Me and you were having a chat on WhatsApp. And you asked me, does Jesus descend in the Quran? I said, no. And you know what? Well, you didn't ask me. You actually asked me, is it correct that Jesus is not said to have been descending in the Quran? I said, that was correct. And I said, you know more than most Muslims. So even you, I suppose even you're not a Muslim. That's why I'm saying even, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know more than, I would say, more than most Muslims about their religion, because they don't really contemplate on their religion. And so I'm going to say, what is the cause? And I'm going to say one word: hypocrisy. What is the hypocrisy? It's that when you see YouTubers talking to white people, trying to entice them into Islam, they're all very calm and polite and logical. But when minorities like myself want to talk to them, they won't even talk to us. It's just pure insults. And if you look at my videos, you'll see the Muslims are they're not listening to any of what I'm saying. There's like a very rare occasion when they actually think about what I'm saying, and they don't. I get my number one comment is, you're a disbeliever. Like, and then I keep giving them this verse of the Holy Quran that says you're not allowed to say that, and then they really don't care. So the point is, there's hypocrisy. There's one side, the nice side, that they give Westerners, being very polite and logical, but when they don't want to, when they don't have to, okay, when it comes to minorities they don't care about, they will persecute them and kill them. And that's what you see in Muslim countries, proper Muslim countries, not like Dubai, which is 90% Western, places like that, or whatever. So those are some thoughts. What do you think is the I was going to say some more, but I'm going to avoid saying more about that. We've already gone over time. I knew this was going to happen. Actually, I didn't know because I'm over. But anyway, what are your thoughts about the cause? What do you think about my analysis is the cause behind their stupidity? If we accept their stupidity, they are stupid Muslims. Or do you think there's a different cause?
Is there an objective way of measuring it? Because I was just thinking while you were talking that really the only objective way is to average the IQs
That's
of
what I
all
was
these
talking about. I said the
non-Muslims.
IQ level of the highest IQ, average IQ level of a Muslim country is of Malaysia, and they're number 43 out of 50. They're nowhere further up the
Okay, okay.
rankings. And even like I would have thought Dubai and Abu Dhabi, with all the money they have, and they've they could pay for all the education they want, whatever, and they're not up there either. So objectively, using numbers and Nobel prizes in science and stuff like
Mhm.
that, they're objectively stupid. Muslims are objectively stupid at the moment.
Right.
But maybe I should look more into other statistics, maybe like what do Muslims do in Western countries. I did research a bit. They don't really rank very high in doctors, but actually, I don't think that's such a bad idea because of the way, at least in the NHS. Actually, I'm not going to go into that. I mean, the NHS is a terrible place to work, so I don't think it's a smart move anyway. But I
Mhm.
think they run businesses more often. But then that could just be part of the fact that they are largely immigrants, and that's what immigrants do, something like that. But anyway, what do you think is a cause? What is the cause of this stupidity? If you accept, do you accept there's any stupidity amongst Muslims?
Well,
Let's start with
I
that.
think it may not be fair because if they're a quarter of the world's population, then you're bound to find a lot of stupid people in such a large group of people who may not necessarily be affluent, they may not be the recipients of universal education, and perhaps the stupidity that I find when I'm talking to Muslims in the West who are supposed to be educated in these matters is the um, curriculum for imams. Maybe they don't learn their religion properly. I mean, I know that Jews learn pilpul, which is basically talking about which is basically a law student's education. They argue about things, principles, and which one is better. I don't know, but it's something like that. I get the impression, and maybe Muslims should do that, for the higher level scholars. And the other thing that they don't seem to do is I mean, ordinary Muslims, I gather that they don't really read the Quran in their own language. They learn how to pronounce things in Arabic, and they think they're reading the Quran just by being able to, pronounce those words, but they don't know the meaning of the words. Which is why I find, a lot of the Muslims don't really know what the verses say.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really know to what extent, but I think you're pretty right that I do find a lot of people don't research much because, and I'd say the simple sort of reason is because they think somebody else will do the research for them. And
They
they're
don't
like,
like reading. People don't like
yeah,
reading scripture until loads of Christians haven't read, the New Testament.
hmm,
Um, so, but with Jews, what they do is they have a reading of the Torah, and it goes in a cycle. And then if you listen to them regularly, the characters like of Moses and Miriam and all the others will become like characters in a soap opera. It's like, oh, why did Moses not get to the promised land? What was his sin? And that kind of thing. And they go on like that, like they were real people in a soap opera or a Shakespearean tragedy. And this, I think, reinforces their sense of identity.
hmm,
And I guess if it were up to me, I'd just change the curriculum for
hmm.
Islamic scholars. Of course, everybody will squawk and say,
If
it's not my
I
place.
I think that an essential problem with the curriculum is that they memorize the Quran and they understand the surface but not the spirit. That's the major tragedy of Muslims today, which I think I'll be pointing out as a solution in a minute. They don't understand the spirit, the very, very basic spirit. Like, what was Prophet Muhammad like? He was a really nice guy. He, like, despite being persecuted, he was so kind to people. And then, like, if you understand that basic spirit of Islam, and then you look at people in Speaker's Corner and how rude they are to each other and fighting each other, it's like you missed the spirit, I would say. What do you think?
Well, I suppose because I am sometimes rude to people, I sort of feel I have to take that sort of thing on the chin, and maybe, because you're fighting for your religion and what you think is right and wrong and good and evil, you just let it rip. There's that stupid person, he still
Okay.
doesn't go. Let's go up to him
It
and
just
mock
gets a
him.
bit boring though intellectually,
Yeah,
because it's like you're
yeah.
saying something and it's like, no, I don't want to accept your logical point of view. I'm just going to be rude instead. It's like, oh god, here we go. Never mind.
Mhm.
But I
But it's
do.
a test of
Yeah,
character, I suppose. If you don't lose your temper too, then you can think, oh, well, I responded to provocations with dignity and,
yeah,
I didn't descend to their level. I mean, I notice the Christians are the ones who, okay, they're very long-winded, and I know that the worst of them, try to provoke the Muslims into violence, and then they say, "Oh, look at these violent Muslims! Look what they've done to us! They're so terrible, aren't they?" But
yeah. They don't have much to do.
it's
I saw a
dwells
video.
the
Yes.
Quran, and you know,
Yeah, I saw a video with one of the top Christian YouTubers. He just thought, oh, I'm just going to push this Muslim, this older gentleman, see what happens. And then he said, oh, why are you beating me up? Anyway, but anyway,
yes,
uh,
Joseph Cohen is infamous for it. He just listens to all the Muslims like you're an anti-Semite, you da 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 da, and
hmm,
it's quite fun. I suppose I shouldn't laugh at these things.
yeah. Anyway, let's talk about a solution then. So this is my solution. Kind of hinted it already, but there's a verse, a beautiful verse of the Holy Quran, God talking to Prophet Muhammad specifically, and where we as Muslims are supposed to copy this advice. Let's say, it says, "I have not sent to you, Prophet Muhammad, that is, except as a mercy to all the world." So that means all people, the trees, everything. Alameen is the word that's used. Um, and so another way of saying it, as Ahmadi Muslims say it, is love for all and hatred for none. And then when I've said this to other Muslims, they're enraged. It's like, are you an Ahmadi Muslim? Why are you saying love everybody? That's the kind of thing I get at Speaker's Corner.
Mm-hmm.
And because they can't possibly, they say, how can you love the Zionist Jews who are killing Palestinians? How can you love Hitler and all this kind of stuff? I had a recent conversation about that. And so what you do is you, just because this is such a crazy idea for most Muslims, even though it's in the Quran, I don't know what else does it mean to have mercy to everyone. Okay. It means you don't actually come, when you say deliver a punishment, let's say Hitler, you got to go, killed lots of people, you get punished. It's not, you don't come from a place of hate. You say, this is what's got to be done. You screwed up massively, this is, and you deserve this punishment because your life is, whatever. I don't want to, why we should kill Hitler is a pretty obvious thing. But the point is that you love everybody, you want the best for everybody, but sometimes people are not redeemable, or they've done something so bad that you don't have the right to forgive them. That's what I'm saying about that. But why is that the solution? Is because when you come to a debate from a place of love, your egos are put to one side, and the ego is the thing that causes all the destruction. I've got to win. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to educate myself. I'm going to just be violent and angry. If you say something, you make a really good argument, that's going to be really annoying, isn't it? If you've got a huge ego. And then what is that replaced with? If you come from a place of love, you start learning because you're actually
Mm-hmm.
listening to everybody. But even better than that, you would create heaven on earth, I would say. Really, you would, because then you would go, how do you create why is there so much depression? Because people don't understand their own needs. They think they just need to buy more stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
when you come from a place of love, you learn, and when you learn, you grow, and you make a beautiful society. Because I don't think a beautiful society is very hard to do, because there are a lot of poor societies that are very happy. You don't need expensive things, you just need a bit of wisdom, I'd say. So what do you think about this solution? Can you think of other solutions? This is what came to my mind. What do you think?
Well,
It's a solution to the stupidity, let's just say. And I'm actually scared of the Muslims becoming a majority, and then Ahmadi Muslims will be persecuted. That's almost a certainty. But anyway, what were you going to say? What's the solution for you?
well, the solution is to make people live under Sharia, and I think this would unite Muslims. You know, if they were given permission to think, well, that. Well, I mean, they actually have no reason to say no. It's a terrible idea because it's like, well, why are you Muslim then? Well, why do you read the Quran? Don't you want the laws of your country, of the society you live in, to reflect the Quran? And they will have, you know, because they know it's me that oh, I don't have the right to interpret the Quran. But I think it would be better than Globo Homo. So and the ones who are my opponents really can't come up with any believable, rational, relevant reason not to support me. And then they'll just.
It's not really support you. You're support a great idea, which is to implement these rules that seem to work from Islam called Sharia. And I'm just thinking, well, that kind of sounds obvious that, well, for a Muslim point of view, to implement Sharia law. But given that Muslims don't really, I suppose this is the short version of it, Muslims don't seem to care for Sharia law themselves. Because Sharia law, for example, says, you know, your favorite one, which is there's no compulsion matter of religion. There should be no compulsion. And so basically, that means free speech. But you can see a lot of people really don't like free speech when it goes against what they've got to say. Even Muhammad Hijab made a video saying if somebody doesn't listen to their parents, the kid gets smacked until he understands or something, you know. And I can see the violence escalating more and more as Muslims become more of the majority. So I suppose, as I always say,
you have to control the interpretation, right? Because you know, yes, you have a list of rules, and you can interpret it in a harsh way or in a humane and reasonable way. And obviously, the good guys should control the interpretation.
So, and the thing is, the interpretation is always going to be it's not really a case of interpretation, I would say. It's just ignoring things you don't want to hear. So if you got supposed Sharia law in Pakistan, but they kill Ahmadi Muslims just for saying they are Muslims. There's no freedom of speech there, right? So it's not really a case of interpretation. It's like willingness to actually follow the Quran. And I would say most Muslims really hate the Quran. I really say that all the time. So the verse Muslims at Speaker's Corner really hate, which I keep repeating, is that there's a verse that says, if somebody says peace be upon you, you're not allowed to call them a disbeliever, a kafir. They love calling me kafirs and whoever they can possibly call kafir. So they really hate the Quran. Muslims hate the Quran. No, I couldn't, because then I'd be just as stupid as them ignoring the Quran as well. So there's no need for me to. It's not just low. I like benefiting from the Quran. There's so many benefits from not calling everybody a disbeliever, one of which is just focus on fixing yourself, you know. So anyway,
but it's a kind of word that they use to otherize people. I mean, non-Muslims use it too. It's like, well, you know, we talk about Jews, and then I call you a Nazi. I've otherized you, and there's even a process. There's a special name for it. It's called takfiri, right? You know, a Muslim calls another Muslim.
You know the terms.
A heretic, but then when Christians took their religion seriously, I'm sure they were accusing each other of heresy the whole time to get, you know, their enemy burned at the stake, right? So I don't think it's necessarily a Muslim problem. It's a kind of pecking order problem. It's like, well, I want to show that I'm cleverer than you, and therefore I'm going to say that what you just said is stupid and would have you expelled from the group if not actually executed. So you better watch it.
Which comes back to the ego issue. And so I'll just repeat. I think the solution, and it's not just that
Is
I
to have
think.
a central authority
Well,
to
that
be
as
able to
well.
say,
Yes,
yeah.
like a Khalifa. That's another thing we were talking about. And only Ahmadi
Mhm.
Muslims have a Khalifa. And so you need a sort of adjudicator who decides right and wrong at some point. But also, this time or this age, according to the Prophet Muhammad, when Muslims will be separated into 73 sects, and he said 72 will be hellbound. I don't know. Have I talked about this one before?
I don't remember.
But yeah, and so there are literally 73. Maybe it fluctuates now. Okay. So without going into too much, the Muslims have decided who the 72 are and who are the one, because they had a nice big convention of some sort, and they said they got all together and they signed a piece of paper and said, you Ahmadi Muslims are one and we are 72. And by their logic, they said, since we're the majority, we must be right. We are the Muslims and you are the disbelievers. Whereas Prophet Muhammad said literally the opposite. He said one would be right and 72 would be wrong. And so the reason why I'm pointing this out, not just to wind people up, but really to point the fact that their mindset, the current mindset of Muslims, is highly hellish or destructive, which is what you find in many Muslim countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, etc. And the remedy that God prophesied was the second coming of Jesus, which is a metaphor. We were talking about this in WhatsApp, and I suppose I should clarify even more. The metaphor is that as Jesus came to the hardened Jews who were all for focusing on eye for an eye, he came and said, offer the other cheek, because it was time they'd softened. And that's what the Muslims need, exactly the same remedy. And that's why Ahmadi Muslims are famous for love for all, hatred for none. That's the metaphor. Does that make any sense? The metaphor is the second coming of Jesus, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. There's no point literally Jesus coming again. The benefit is, what is the great message? What did Jesus do to the Jews to remedy their spiritual illnesses? The same thing God prophesied would need to be done again, which is to soften them, to show love, not hatred. So that's why I think the remedy is love for all, hatred for none, or from the Quran, I have not sent you except as a mercy to all the world. Your last words?
I think this is really the crux of the matter, a mercy to all the world. I guess a lot of Islamophobes would not consider you a mercy, but would consider you a terror. But if it could be put to you that you know Muslims are supposed to help Jews, no hideize the world, and point them to a better religion that isn't Christianity, which has failed, or liberalism, which has also failed, then something might be done. And I think it requires lawyerly skills and lawyerly instincts to make these points, and you know, and hopefully an audience capable of understanding these points, which sadly most people don't.
Cool. Thank you, Claire. Always appreciate your time. I really do. You keep coming on my little live streams. Appreciate your time as always. Peace be upon you. Bye, Claire.
Thank you, and the same to you.
Thank you.
Take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.